On this edition of the program, why the Republican plan to bring the talking filibuster back is DOA. We are in a shutdown, and UK politics rocked by the Epstein scandal even more than we are here in the US of A. Stella joins us. It's all coming up.
The following is brought to you by Just Another Pilot.
Hello and welcome everybody to the Politics podcast for February 13th, 2026. Your old pal Justin Robert Young joining you here on Valentine's Day weekend. Go get the flowers now. Just go get the flowers now. Guys, I know she says she doesn't like flowers. She likes flowers. It's fine. It's good. Just get them now. Get them on Friday. Have it ready to go. Do a little something special. I would like to wish a big happy birthday to somebody special in my life. That is my wife. She's got one of those big birthdays. I won't say the number because it is impolite, but you could probably do some basic demographics. Yeah, happy birthday to my wife, Ashley. She is the greatest thing to ever happen to me. And it is amazing that we have our little family here in Austin. And, it's very rare that you can stop and smell the roses a little bit, but it's essential. And I want to bring this up before, because we're going to get into all sorts of politics stuff here. We're going to talk about the filibuster, and we're going to talk about the shutdown, and we're going to talk about the UK, blah, 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 blah. All of this is in service of what is worthwhile in life. And what is worthwhile in life is our relationships. It is our friends. It is our family. It is our spouses. It is our siblings. It is our children. And I don't mean what their rights and regulations, blah, blah, blah. Look, that's all how we define our relationship to the government. And it's important. I'm not here to say it's not important. It's my living. But if we don't anchor that it is in service to something, and that treasure is what is the reason why we care about it, then we've totally put the cart before the horse. And it always bums me out whenever I hear people talking about how they don't talk to their friends or they don't talk to their family because of politics, because that's the exact opposite of what we need to do. We need to be talking to our friends. We need to be talking to our family. And then from a political point of view, if you want to sway them on something, then sway them. But don't let the machinery destroy the cargo. And so, with that, happy birthday to my wife. Let's go ahead and get into our main topic here. I got a little bit of information on the talking filibuster. What is the talking filibuster? It is not the it is not the after show to an AMC series called Filibuster. No. It is the concept that if you don't have 60 votes in the Senate to pass something, that you would force senators to filibuster your bill by way of a consistent floor motion. So they'd have to give a speech, right? Remember when Cory Booker spoke for 24 hours or whatever? You'd be doing that. Now, this is frowned upon in our modern Senate because it is considered an end around to the 60-vote filibuster. It is eroding the 60-vote filibuster, and that, among Senate institutionalists, is the only thing holding this country together. For if we got rid of the 60-vote filibuster, then there would be laws that would be passed on a thinner majority that would assuredly ruin the country. This comes at the tremendous consternation to people who are on, usually in the base of the party that is in charge, and prevents them from getting their things done. If you want to go back in time to the Biden administration, you had another election reform bill that the White House and Democratic senators all said, this is a matter of authoritarianism and democracy. We need to pass this bill. These bills that are happening in states like Georgia, this is not just Jim Crow, it's Jim Eagle. Direct quote from Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. And so to do that, we need to end the filibuster. Now, they wanted to end the filibuster. They didn't think about doing a talking filibuster. What is being discussed now in Republican circles is a talking filibuster, which is kind of a halfway point between just saying that they want the filibuster gone. It would be weakening the filibuster, but it wouldn't be getting rid of it. Now, the proponents of this say that you don't need to change any rules. No rules changed to put the talking filibuster out of style. That was just something that happened. Okay. They're right. The most famous talking filibuster that has happened in recent memory is in 1964. 1964, Lyndon Baines Johnson, taking over from the slain Robert F. Kennedy, decides he is going to pitch one of Kennedy's signature legislative achievements that he never was able to push over the finish line, and that is civil rights legislation. Obviously a very big deal. LBJ, one of the smoothest operators in Senate history, decides that he is going to go all in. He's going to pass it through the House, and then in conversations that were taped, by the way, you can listen to them. They were featured in my history series, Raise the Dead. He talks to Katharine Graham of the Washington Post, coordinates with her a media blitz on making sure that everybody is on the record on where they are on civil rights. Because in that moment, the country was desperate to memorialize their slain president. And so if you made them famous for not doing what JFK wanted to do, then you would face public rebuke. So who were they up against? Well, in the Senate, they were up against other Democrats, Southern Democrats, including Al Gore's daddy. They put on the longest filibuster that the country to that point had ever seen. And eventually, they tired him out. Hubert Humphrey was in charge of that effort in the Senate, and they eventually got what they wanted. Civil rights passed, and the rest is history, literally. Now, again, nothing changed in the rules. There was never a moment where Senate rules said that the talking filibuster can't happen. And so that's what a lot of people will tell you. And that's what I'm hearing is being whispered about all over D.C. And the reason that they want to invoke the talking filibuster is for the Save America Act. The Save America Act, which narrowly passed in the House, now will be the charge of the Senate, certainly would be signed by President Trump were it to make it passed. Does not have 60 votes currently. So it would have to go by the talking filibuster. And it will never happen. Ever. And the reason is because of Senate institutionalists. John Thune is not that guy. John Thune doesn't want his legacy to be weakening the filibuster. The argument against that is the Democrats are going to weaken or eliminate the filibuster as soon as they can. If you squint with a lot of liberal optimism, the soonest that would be 2029 after Donald Trump leaves office. But it would necessitate not only the Democrats winning the House, but also the Senate, and then, of course, the presidency for it to really matter. The other reason why it's not going to happen is because the people that are currently talking about this are very aggressive. And that is not how you're ever going to get this done. The plans that I have heard are detailed. There's a lot of in the weeds stuff, some real Robert's Rules of Order hackery that would determine how you would define a legislative day. There's just a lot. There's a lot that would be in there. But it would require John Thune to be all aboard. And the House, from what I'm told, says, look, Senate, we promise, we swear, we will only send bills to you that we will call for the talking filibuster on that are 80-20 issues. These are good issues. And this is where you could see a glimmer of optimism for a plan like this. Because right now, if you look at what the Republicans had to talk about in 2024, two of their biggest things that were 80-20 issues are kind of gone. The border, credit to the Trump administration, is closed. Like, I still think it's an under-discussed story considering how much it had been a thorn in the side of administration after administration. The thing is closed. But that used to be an 80-20 issue. Democrats would say that the border wasn't a problem, and then they said that was a problem, but they didn't really have any credibility on it. The second is the panoply of trans-related issues, specifically in regards to women's sports and children. The right is kind of won on those. And aside from discourse that happens throughout the internet, in terms of public opinion, you don't see the same kinds of stories that are bubbling up to the surface. But there's a reason why politicians don't like actually solving problems. Because good problems are money makers for them. They are vote motivators for them. They would much rather be battling a thing for eternity than to actually change things. And this is part of the reason why. Because the reason that the SAVE Act, or the Save America Act now, it's different than the SAVE Act, would be a winner for the Senate Republicans is because it is an 80-20 issue in their favor, and they're currently kind of depleted on those. I've been on the record saying I think it's a good idea for the Republicans to do it. And the reason is this. If you have a bunch of Democrats out there talking for days and days and days about how they don't want voter ID or how voter ID is racist, then you are going to have them on the record. They will also invariably start doing the things that happen during extra long filibusters, like reading the dictionary or doing something else that's kind of fundamentally unserious. If they are asking for the reins of power back, you can throw that in their face. I would specifically be looking at somebody who's been getting a lot of shine lately. Jon Ossoff in Georgia, feted over the last 7 days because he coined the term the Epstein class in a speech over the weekend, defining the Epstein class as rich Republicans. I don't quite know if that lands or sticks in the way that the journalistic chattering class seem to think it is. I am a noted Ossoff skeptic, not to say that I don't think that he is talented. I just don't, you gotta do it in the playoffs for me. You haven't really had a hard road electorally. You had a lot of wind at your back, Ossoff. But I think he's going to run against a subpar opponent, and I would expect him to win in that race. Still, wouldn't you want John Ossoff on the record saying that voter ID is bad? Wouldn't you want him on the record saying that the state law that he has in Georgia is bad, despite the fact that it raised black voting participation after it was passed? Yes, you would. You'd want him on that, because if you are a Republican and you want to beat John Ossoff, you want to take one of those 2 Georgia Senate seats and flip him red, you'll want him on the 20 side of an 80-20 issue. Or you'll want him to be on the 80 side so you can pass your legislative priority. There's only a few ways that you are going to force the issue. And I think this is a really good one. It's too bad it won't happen. Because tradition is tradition is tradition. Senators are kind of chummy. They don't like pressing each other all that much. They're there for 6 years. So yeah, they'll take their barbs out in the press sometimes, but this is the august deliberative body. It is the country club, not the truck stop that is the House, where all manner of ne'er-do-well come and go, all willy-nilly. No. You got to be made as something special to be in the Senate, and nobody wants to embarrass somebody lest they be embarrassed. And so there is an insurgent pushing to do it. I think it is going to cap out at institutionalists who never want anything on their resume to say that they weakened the filibuster. But it's a shame. It'd be prime C-SPAN viewing. And if I'm a Democrat, boy, do I not want them to do it. I'm thrilled that they don't do it. Because, why would you want to expose that kind of liability? You don't want anything to be bigger than the issues that you want to talk about, like affordability. You don't want anything to be bigger than the issues that you want to talk about, like, shockingly, Epstein. That's what you want to talk about. This is your update, brought to you by TakePoliticsSeriously.com, where you need to go if you want to get 2 bonus episodes of the show. It's our Substack. It's a great place to be. It's a great place to gather. It's a great place to comment. It's just a great time. It's a good app. Best in class app. You love to see it. TakePoliticsSeriously.com. Senate Democrats have blocked a GOP-backed Department of Homeland Security funding bill, making a shutdown this weekend all but certain. The procedural vote failed to reach the 60-vote threshold after House members had already left Washington for recess. Negotiations between the White House and Democrats have stalled over demands to rein in immigration enforcement, particularly ICE. Though the administration offered concessions, Democrats called them insufficient and rejected a short-term stopgap measure. A shutdown is going to affect multiple agencies because DHS is obviously a lot more than simply ICE. Those include the TSA, FEMA, and the Coast Guard, although some do have temporary funding buffers. Lawmakers are leaving town, potentially prolonging the standoff before public pressure intensifies. Codal trips, CODEL trips, they are going to be ongoing. You got a lot of people that are going to the Munich Security Conference, including AOC. Gavin Newsom will also be there, although he has nothing to do with Congress. There are PAC trips. So like you go to some conference that's put on by a political action committee and you give a speech. It's a bad look. It's a really bad look. Like, I get shutting things. I mean, no, I actually don't get shutting things down. I understand that after the Alex Peretti shooting, you have, John Thune didn't keep people in on a Friday. This wouldn't have been an issue if that were the case. He left it to vote on a Monday, and then a funny thing happened over the weekend. A guy died. Shot in the back by Customs and Border Patrol agents, and you had everything that followed. And now you've got a government shutdown that may well stretch into March and spring break travel, TSA lines. There's a lot that goes into this. And the question that you have to ask yourself is, if you're the Trump White House and you saw how the last shutdown went, where you didn't turn a lot of the pain knobs up to 11, you kept them a little bit lower, you moved money around so you could keep things operating as normal, and then eventually only when the pain knobs went to 11 did the Democrats come back and cut a deal that, by the way, got them nothing, for the record. No, we're not even talking about the subsidies anymore. Then why don't you just turn the pain knobs up to 11 now? God forbid, what happens if there is a disaster for which FEMA is needed? Every inch of that response is going to be viewed through the lens of a government shutdown. The recovery of that place will be looked at through the lens of a government shutdown. Obviously, ICE is a very important issue, and it is electric with the Democratic base. But I don't know how much it's going to be you have to protest, you have to shut the government down to get these ICE changes. The issues that they're fighting over, masks and warrants and stuff like that, the difference of a kind of warrant that you would have, are not understandable to the American public on a level that they would say, oh, cool, that's why I'm going to miss my plane because the TSA line is too long. This is just not a great look. It's not a great look for anybody to be leaving D.C. with a government shutdown. That's just my opinion. Speaking of ICE, the Trump administration is ending its large-scale immigration enforcement surge in Minnesota. This, according to border czar Tom Homan. A significant drawdown of federal agents is already underway. Some officers will remain to coordinate with local sheriffs. The surge followed protests and national backlash after federal agents fatally shot 2 protesters, including Alex Peretti, during demonstrations. Minnesota officials said the operation caused deep community harm and economic disruption. Governor Tim Walz and Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey cautiously welcomed the pullback while emphasizing lingering concerns. Justice Department's investigation into state officials continues as debates persist over cooperation with the feds. I want to go back to what Democrats are looking for with this shutdown, because here's the larger problem. You need, whenever any party shuts down the government, it's Democrats now, it used to be Republicans. History tells you don't get what you want. You usually get nothing. Democrats believe they can get something out of this, but their base is so ginned up on this issue, they're going to crucify the Democrats no matter what deal they cut. Because they came back with 10, it was told to me that they had 3 demands and then they became 10 demands. But if you actually read the 10 demands, they were 20 demands. And I'll guarantee you that's because the 3 demands leaked out. And then you had very, very angry voices in the base that were saying, well, why not this? Well, why not this? Well, why not this? Okay. So now you do all these other things, but you're not going to get them. We had Bill Scher on a couple weeks ago when all this happened. And he said, look, a shutdown is fine as long as you understand that you have to get a win condition. And the win condition, what you should be considering as a win condition is a drawdown. We need to stop people from dying on the streets. Let's get ICE out of Minneapolis. Well, guess what? ICE is out of Minneapolis, and you are not taking a victory lap if you are the Democrats. You have now moved the goalpost to say that you want other things that, spoiler alert, you ain't gonna get. So now they're back in a situation that they were before. You will be destroyed by your base for cutting any kind of a deal because your base doesn't understand that this is not the position to negotiate into. You need to get anything that's offered and then move on. Understand that these are issues that will be voted on in the midterms and won't be decided right now when you are in the minority. It's just they will be destroyed for the deal that they cut. The question is just when do they cut it? And does anything happen in the middle to make that go faster? Finally, some House Democrats are considering protests during President Trump's February 24th State of the Union, defying Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries' directive to show either silent defiance, quote unquote, or skip the speech. Many acknowledge that last year's disruptions, including heckling, signs, and a walkout, were ineffective and politically damaging. A few lawmakers, such as Representatives Shry Teninder, one of the weirdest congressional characters, I gotta say, and Jared Huffman say that they may protest or walk out. Others stress there is no coordinated plan. And I think that is something that you could probably underline. Progressive leaders suggest any actions will be restrained, and the debate highlights internal Democratic tensions over how to forcefully oppose Trump without appearing unserious or counterproductive in a high-profile national moment. Is there a way that you can protest President Trump without making him look more sane? Because that's the problem with the last time, is that the Trump speech was, had all these, the things that wound up being shown over and over and over again were fairly heartwarming, right? It's like, a kid getting an honorary membership into the Secret Service, and a high school graduate being told that he had been accepted to a military academy, stuff like that. And then meanwhile, Al Green stepped up and was screaming before the speech even began. He had to be taken out of the chamber. Just, here's what this underlines to me. Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, either have control of their party at all. The margin is too thin. The base is too insane. Donald Trump is such a polarizing figure, and there is nobody of significant stature in the Democratic Party that's going to get anybody in line. Nancy Pelosi ain't walking through that door. She is gone. She has got a pint of Jenny's ice cream in her hand, and she is ready to pop a bottle of wine and get the hell out of here, because it's going to require somebody with a very firm hand who understands where things are and is an excellent fundraiser to get people like this under control. And right now, that's not going to happen. I expect the State of the Union to be an absolute circus. And that's your update. TakePoliticsSeriously.com, where you need to go if you want to get more. 2 bonus episodes each and every week. And now, let's talk about UK politics, huh? I have no idea what the hell is going on in the UK right now, which is why we bring on Stella Tsantekidou back to the program. Stella, you write about so much, but your former profession was in labor government, and you are a commentator specifically from that perspective. I had a friend of mine on yesterday, or we recorded it yesterday when we were talking, which is on Wednesday, and I asked whether or not there was going to be a change in leadership from the Labor Party, from the prime minister would step down and somebody else from the Labor Party would stand up. And he, an American who follows this kind of stuff, seemed to believe that there was nobody in the Labor Party that was popular enough to be able to take the spot, which is probably going to lead to an even messier situation with elections being called. What the hell's going on?
Yeah, so I do not agree with your friend. I do think that there are people, definitely in the Labour Party. So I'll tell you, the problem is, right, there is one guy called Andy Burnham, who is the mayor of Manchester. And he's polling really well. He's very popular. He's polling better. He's the only one who some polls have shown could beat Nigel Farage, who is the leader of this new right-wing party, right? So he's like our Donald Trump light. But Keir Starmer blocked him from standing for parliament, and he needs to be an MP. He needs to be in parliament to be able to run for the leadership. And he didn't let him do that because obviously he knew he would challenge him. There are other MPs. Angela Rayner is one who is also popular enough. She's not as popular as Andy Burnham, but she's popular enough. But she had an issue with her tax affairs back in the autumn, and that's why she had to resign from her ministerial position. But she's still in parliament, she's still in the party, and she's going to run. Now, there are other MPs, like Wes Streeting, for example, who is also a minister, but he has no chance. People keep on going on and on about how he would totally challenge Keir Starmer, but he has no chance because he was super close to Peter Mandelson. Yeah. And that wing of the party, so the more Blairite wing of the party, it's the right wing side of the party. But it is definitely, we have one by-election coming up, and then we have the local elections in May. And obviously, if you are an ambitious MP and you want to be leader of the Labour Party, you do not want to run right now. You want Keir Starmer to lead the party during those elections.
Yes.
Do very badly, take the blame for it, and then seamlessly you come in and you have a new party.
Solve the problem.
Put all of that, yeah.
Why are we here, aside from apparently the compulsion of the citizens of the United Kingdom to toss out their prime ministers after about a year and a half?
Yeah. And there are loads of reasons, but the thing that I will try to explain is why the Epstein files have been such a massive bomb for the UK.
Yes.
So Peter Mandelson.
This is related to that. You can make the argument that by the fallout of these files, this is more of an explosion over there than it even is over here.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Oh, 100%. We've been talking about this for the last week nonstop. But we have to go back to October, November, when Peter Mandelson had to resign as ambassador. So when you started having the first,
he was the ambassador to the United States,
exactly,
named by Prime Minister Keir Starmer.
Peter Mandelson, ambassador to the United States, a controversial appointment because Peter Mandelson, he used to be a member of parliament. He used to be in the cabinet of Tony Blair. So Tony Blair, prime minister from the late 90s and then until 2007. And then you had Gordon Brown. He was the most successful Labour prime minister. And Peter Mandelson was seen to be pivotal back then. He was very important. People in the Labour Party look up to him. They will say he's one of the most brilliant policy minds of our generation. But at the same time, he has twice been sacked from the government under Tony Blair and Gordon Brown because of his very close relationship with high-powered rich people. Basically what he was doing, the first time he got a passport for, I think it was a Chinese billionaire, something like that. Like he basically used his position to carry favor with a rich person. And then the second time, again, while he was a minister, he got a massive loan to buy a house from another super rich person. So we already know that this is a person who, despite how brilliant everybody says he is, he has a very soft spot for money and status, and he wants to live the good life. And he has talked about this himself in his biography. So he gets appointed as ambassador, even though it is very controversial, and everybody is a bit concerned. Why would he do that? Now, why did Keir Starmer presumably decide to appoint him? Some people are saying it's precisely
this
because...
is a pretty big role because, the relationship between the United States and the United Kingdom is an ever-evolving one, especially in a second Trump administration.
And we are a poor country and we are trying to get a trade deal with the US, all of these things. Now, Peter Mandelson, we've always known that he was a friend with Jeffrey Epstein. He had a relationship. And it has already been reported 2 years ago in 2023 by the Financial Times that Peter Mandelson stayed in Jeffrey Epstein's house, in his apartment in New York City, after Jeffrey Epstein has been convicted for sexual abuse of children, while he is in prison. So we know that. Despite that being public knowledge, he gets selected. Why does he get selected? Some people would
hold on. He stayed in his apartment after the first conviction, the sex offender conviction in Palm Beach.
Yeah.
Okay,
which was, it was considered the lighter one.
It was a sweetheart deal is what it gets the rap as, but he was convicted as a sex offender. Yes.
Yeah. People are saying the reason why he's still a good choice, and they think they're being very clever by saying that, is because who else is in the Epstein files? Donald Trump. Who is best to handle someone like Donald Trump? Peter Mandelson, because Peter Mandelson is used to hanging out with creepy, corrupt, rich people. Right? Okay.
Wait, that's a mainstream thought? Is that why he was a good selection?
That is what people were saying when they wanted to sound Machiavellian and I'm being strategic. And we are going to put strategy and results above moralizing and woolly soft feelings.
That is amazing. Just, that's great.
But then you have you start having all of these public Epstein files, like the book, with all of the drawings, and emails start to come out from Peter Mandelson to Jeffrey Epstein, and we realize that their relationship this is not just a business contact. This is not just someone who is your friend. This is someone you're extremely close to.
They're boys,
Yes, and their emails are... Peter Mandelson is telling him, oh my God, I'm so sorry, we will get through this. Like, once he gets convicted for his sex crimes, and it's like, we will get through this, don't worry, blah, blah, blah. He's giving him advice, he's encouraging him.
Yeah. People
are disgusted here and are like, I'm sorry, you can't keep this man in his position. So Keir Starmer, first he comes out and says, he still has my full confidence. A day later, U-turns and says, okay, no, he has to go. And then Peter Mandelson resigns, okay? He still is in the House of Lords at that point. He still appears in the House of Lords. Now you have this new wave of emails coming out.
Yes.
And what do we find out? We find out that while Peter Mandelson was business secretary in 2009 under Prime Minister Gordon Brown, effectively he was his deputy prime minister. Effectively he was his number two. He was forwarding emails with state secrets, briefings meant to be just for the eyes of the prime minister, straight to Peter Mandelson 5 minutes after he would receive them. So he would be getting...
Straight to Epstein. Mandelson was sending them to Epstein.
Yes. So he would be getting, for example, from his American counterpart, the then business secretary in the US, he would be getting confidential, market-sensitive information, and 5 minutes later, he would be forwarding it to Jeffrey Epstein, who is obviously a financier with a lot of bank clients. At the same time, so this is 2009, right? So this is the aftermath of the 2008 banking crisis.
Wow. So there's a lot to bet on. Yeah.
Exactly. So think about the context. The UK is trying to recover from the financial crisis. They are taking important decisions about how to manage public assets and about the EU bailout program, right? Mm-hmm. This is market-sensitive information. And it is basically the question they are trying to answer is who is going to pay for this? Yeah. Now, Gordon Brown and the then Chancellor, Alistair Darling, they are discussing whether there should be a 50% tax on bankers' bonuses. A 50% tax on bankers' bonuses to pay for all of that. And the email show Jeffrey Epstein, Peter Mandelson, and the then CEO of JP Morgan discussing how to convince the Chancellor of the UK not to do that. And Peter Mandelson, there is an email where he is advising him, the JP Morgan CEO, to call back the Chancellor and to mildly threaten him. The business secretary of the UK is secretly advising the CEO of JP Morgan to mildly threaten his own chancellor so that they don't tax bankers' bonuses. And this is a labor business secretary. This is a man in the Labour Party. Now, I think this man is a traitor, right? This is one of the biggest scandals in British political modern history.
I will say that is astounding and gobsmacking on a level that I don't think that we have seen, at least that has gotten coverage, anything comparable even here in America, where Epstein obviously also had a lot of different contacts. Now, America has a different relationship in terms of direct executive communication with the business community. So it would be a little bit less of it wouldn't be shocking to see the American president bring in all the bank CEOs to the White House to have them, speak directly. So there might be a little bit of a difference in culture, but the line in the sand is clear. The guy was advocating for people that were not the British public for which he was
but also giving them secret information. He's giving secret. The information that the American government was giving to them was only for the eyes of the Prime Minister, for the British Prime Minister.
That's crazy. That's nuts. So Mandelson resigns when?
So he has already resigned as ambassador. These emails come out and people are like, right, now we need to have further action. And this is just the tip of the iceberg, right? There is loads of emails there who just saw the extent of the relationship he had with Mandelson. And also the thing that comes out is, so we already know that Jeffrey Epstein has wired up to 75k pounds way back then, and has paid for 10,000 pounds for an osteopathy course that Peter Mandelson, then partner, was taken. Which, as far as money goes for these super rich people, that's not loads of money. But what becomes clear through the emails is that the reason why Mandelson was doing that is not because of those pennies, is because he was trying, after he left government, to secure a multi-million pound deal with one of the banks that Jeffrey Epstein works with, to have him on retainer, basically, and to act as an advisor. And that is why he was doing that, right? So the first thing that happened is people are saying, oh, how are we going to remove him from the House of Lords as a peer? There is no mechanism to do that. But that is a discussion that we're having for like a day, and then people are starting to realize, no, wait a minute, this is criminal. There needs to be criminal prosecution. So now the police has opened an investigation. They have gone into Peter Mandelson's house and they're looking through it. But what comes out after is that, in fact, it wasn't Keir Starmer himself who insisted on putting Peter Mandelson as ambassador. It was his chief of staff, Morgan McSweeney, who we've long known is the person who is behind the whole Keir Starmer project. And one of the complaints that people have had with Keir Starmer as Prime Minister for the entirety that he's been in this post is that this guy doesn't seem to be particularly politically motivated himself. It doesn't sound like he knows what he's doing and why he's doing it. It sounds like there is somebody else behind him.
Yeah.
And after loads of pressure, obviously Morgan McSweeney resigns, and there's been pressure on him to resign for a long time. So at the moment, Keir Starmer is really, really lonely. He has no allies. Basically, in the last 2 days, all of the senior staff members from the government are just being cleared out. And you have the elections coming up. So
he's a dead man walking. This is not a question of if. This is a question of when.
When.
Yeah.
And it's not just, it's a lot, it's been building up for a long time, right? And honestly, I thought, the first time I thought it wouldn't surprise me if someone said it's the right thing that you resign, I would have said that was the first time that the first Epstein files came out and we realized how close Peter Mandelson was with Jeffrey Epstein. And despite all that, he wanted that public role. But at the moment, you could have Peter Mandelson ending up in jail, which I think he should end up in jail.
Okay, so let's focus on the Keir Starmer. So right now, the biggest question it sounds from what you've said, is twofold. Number one, the judgment of why would you put this guy in here? It's not like we weren't aware that he was close to Jeffrey Epstein. Now, I don't think anybody in Downing Street was thinking that Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie would force a law that would have a bunch of files, just kind of flood into the public awareness. That's not anything that normally happens unless charges are going to be brought. But now that it is, that decision seems even more suspect because the public knows specific details. And then I guess Keir Starmer didn't immediately kind of cauterize that wound and be like, whoa, I didn't know this. This is crazy. He lied to me too. He needs to get out. He kind of backed him longer than somebody who was a little bit more politically aware probably would have, which brings up more of the core element of, wait, what are you doing? What is your judgment here? Like why are you?
Well, a lot of the way a lot of scandals work in British politics, and the same happens in American politics often again, is a scandal does not become a scandal because suddenly new information comes to light.
Yes.
It's usually information has been trickling out for a long time.
Drip, drip, drip.
And it only becomes a scandal when enough information accumulates that it becomes visible to the broader public and more people, it's the salience, like has it reached the adequate salience level for people to be absolutely terrified of, oh my God, what else is there? And this is what's happening now. So you had a minister, Wes Streeting, who is also a leadership hopeful, who voluntarily opened up his WhatsApp messages with Peter Mandelson. Okay. And obviously there's all sorts of stuff there, right? All sorts of things that both make him look good and both make him look bad. And people are now saying, oh, should the rest of the cabinet, all the other ministers do the same? Should all of the Labour Party staffers do the same? And I disagree with that because I think that when you take messages out of context, only bad things happen because you can misunderstand things. You do not know what people's intentions are. Peter Mandelson was an extremely powerful guy, influential, well-respected guy. If I was WhatsApping Peter Mandelson, even if I was WhatsApping Jeffrey Epstein, Donald Trump, even though I think they're, whatever, I would be like, I would be careful with how I speak to them. I would definitely be trying to manipulate them as well. So you shouldn't take whatever I'm saying.
You might be flattering them. Messages. You might be making jokes that you wouldn't make otherwise. Yeah.
So it's a massive bomb, and it is a catch-22 situation because he can't resign right now because he has to wait until at least the by-elections on the 26th of February, but also ideally until the May elections, which are our local elections.
That's going to get pretty stinky. Like British scandals build at a pretty high ferocity, and the idea if everybody knows you're dead, for you to be that level of adrift and a punching bag and having everybody abandon you until May seems like actual hell. Like, I don't know if anybody would realistically do that.
Yes, and he has tried to threaten his party with saying, I'm going to go for a full general elections. And if he did...
that's the other question that I want to get to, because that, in the backdrop of all of this, from the British perspective, is this Farage rising narrative that the Labour Party just came back into power, a year and a half ago? It hasn't really been all that long, right? And that was after a pretty steady reign of conservative rule, the Tories rule. And now, almost as fast as it started, Keir Starmer, the brave new version of Tony Blair, is totally done. He is ruined. It is over. Everybody's running away from him. And it's not the Conservative Party that is looking to come back into power. No, they're also gutted. It is the Reform Party that had a better than expected showing in the last election. And now, according to polling, looks like it has fully kind of completed a coalition that would sweep them into power and put Nigel Farage as the prime minister. That would be a radically different change of direction for the UK. So I guess that's Keir Starmer's back pocket is like, everybody needs to calm down. I'll resign when it makes sense. But if you don't shut up, I'll make Nigel Farage the prime minister tomorrow if you want to keep hitting at me.
Yes, and I hope that he does behind the scenes. If I was Keir Starmer behind the scenes, I would be telling people, I will resign. Let's make a plan. But I don't think that he has done that. Nigel Farage is, and the rise of reform is just absolutely astonishing. Just as astonishing, frankly, as Donald Trump becoming president, yes. Getting elected as president twice. But reform is a whole new party, and Nigel Farage is not new to British politics in the way that Donald Trump was new to American politics. Nigel Farage has been around for decades. He has been frowned upon for decades. He has been seen. He has been seen as a charlatan for decades. On Monday, I was at a massive rally that they were doing in Birmingham, and I have to say that if Labour was to cling on to power until and wait to have the general elections in 2027 or 2028, which it is what should happen, and they should do that, obviously. And there is no reason why they shouldn't stay in government for their full term. But I do think that eventually they will have reform, and Nigel Farage will give themselves enough rope to hang themselves by, because it wasn't... I have been to many political rallies in my life, and their rally was on a Monday at 3 p.m. in the middle of the day, right? When people should be at work. So it was full of pensioners, as most of the rallies are full of pensioners. And the energy was pretty low. I did not feel this is a party with insane momentum. The only person who has real momentum is Nigel Farage. He's the only person inside the party who has this massive popular following. I don't think other politicians have that. At the moment, over half of their they have 8 MPs in parliament, right? And it's only 4 of them who did not come from the Conservative Party. The others are former Conservative Party ministers. And you had the situation where Nigel Farage was on stage and he was saying how badly the Conservatives have run the country into the ground for the last 14 years. And right behind him, you have this row of former Conservative ministers just looking on and saying, yes, that is right. We ran the party into the ground. We ran the country into the ground. So I think that generally, if you give them another 2 years and journalists start genuinely scrutinizing what is coming out, they will not be faring as well. If the Labour Party is serious about reforming itself and gets rid of Keir Starmer and puts someone a lot more charismatic in place, like Angela Rayner, for example, or Andy Burnham, who obviously he has been blocked from running for Parliament at the moment.
But isn't part of this just throw the bums out? There's been obviously a pretty quickly paced revolving door for that position over the last 10 years. And it seems like, now it's gone. Reform is not necessarily from this side of the pond. It doesn't seem like they're particularly the best solution. They're just a different solution than what they've had before. And there's an element of the British public that just desperately doesn't want either the Labour Party or the Conservatives to be in power.
So it's not just the last 10 years. British politics has always been volatile like that. So it was the same during the Margaret Thatcher years, when John Major was prime minister, during the Tony Blair years. It's always been like this. It's always they've always been. Our leaders have always been quite insecure, let's say, in their position.
But even then, like, there were Margaret Thatcher years. There were Tony Blair years. We've yet to get into the plural on year for some of these prime ministers over the last decade. That's what's crazy to me, is that it's not, look, everything's always volatile and you have ministers resign, and usually there is a firewall, even from a party perspective, to say we look unserious if at every scandal we can't pull ourselves together and, keep on and carry on, right? Like that's a core tenet of any political party, regardless of where you are. And it doesn't seem like that has been the order of the day in either of the two major ones in the UK. It is just a constant, something's happened, people are mad, and now good, get people out. And part of it is also the parliamentary system where every MP looks at themselves as a future prime minister. So don't worry, this guy sucks. I'd fix it.
It always comes back to the economy, though. So Margaret Thatcher, what saved her in the end was the fact that the UK found North Sea oil. So that oil was a massive cash injection into the British economy. Yeah. And then Tony Blair was able to hang on to, the new neoliberal era and the European Union and give access to the British economy to a whole new world of opportunities. So you can no longer, you don't have these levers to pull anymore. Keir Starmer doesn't have these levers to pull in his arsenal. And because he doesn't have a political hinterland, he doesn't have a political project that he is personally invested in. And he has always depended on this technocratic style of what do the polls say? How do we... his main project was win the elections. That was his main project. And that is why he failed when he came into government, because he doesn't have clear priorities. He has U-turned massively. When he first came into government, the number one priority was growth. We have to do anything possible to bring growth. That was very quickly watered down. And then the number one priority became cost of living crisis. Yeah. Great, cost of living crisis. It doesn't feel very genuine. It doesn't feel, people do not believe it. Even when he keeps on trying, and the Labour Party keeps on releasing press releases about all of these little improvements that they're doing on the economy, but people are not listening because they are completely overshadowed by these massive scandals.
What is the state of kind of the liberal order of Europe? Because, there's another show that I do where we're doing a topic on popularity of leaders by country. And the three that are at the bottom are France, Germany, and the UK. And these are more left-leaning leaders that, they get a lot of press here in America as being a bulwark against Donald Trump. And there's obviously a lot of palpable fear about, the shattering of the post-World War II, rules-based order. And yet in those countries, the people don't like the leaders. Like, where are we going here?
All this, the thing these three countries have in common is that they all took very unrealistic and bad decisions in aspects of their economy, which are fundamentally very important. So if you look at France, for example, at the moment, if you are a pensioner or if you are in pension age people, have a higher income than working age people. Insane. And they refuse to do anything. They refuse to do anything about the pension age. They refuse to do anything about state pension increases, demographic collapse, and all of that. If you look at Germany, they took some catastrophic decisions when it comes to their energy security. They closed down their nuclear plants. They allowed the Green Party to basically convince people that nuclear power is dangerous and bad. And they naively thought 15 years ago that, don't worry, Russia is not, if we become a client of Russia for our gas needs.
What's the worst that could happen?
That will convince them not to invade their neighbors. And in the UK, again, you've had government after government after government not willing to make important decisions and have a realistic view of the economy. But at the same time, we picked someone like Keir Starmer, an extremely uncharismatic politician, to fight a populist era. Yeah. And the reason why he won so conclusively is because he played it as safe as possible with the manifesto, and because the country was going to vote for change no matter what. There wasn't another party to challenge the conservatives in 2024, in the summer of 2024. Reform was nowhere near ready to do that. So people were going to vote the conservatives out no matter what. You could have literally put a puppet sock with in front of the camera and say, this is the leader of the Labour Party, and Labour would be in government.
Yeah, you'd have Prime Minister Sock. The one thing that you did not mention that does come up a lot and certainly has played a large role in the conversation in our 24 election is immigration. And that is a big part of the populist rise in all the countries that we mentioned. Is there any, is there a pathway for labor on that? What is the current state of the conversation? Because obviously reform is going to make it their entire personality.
Yes, and they already have, and that is one of their main weaknesses, in my opinion, that there are people there who think that, immigration is our number one problem. Immigration has been very bad in the UK, and that is part of state failure, because basically what happened is the Conservatives, they would change rules without being able to monitor exactly how many people were coming in, and if these people were people who were able to support themselves, if there were jobs available for them. And that reached the point where there was a year where you had a little less than 1 million people arriving to the UK. Massive problem.
Yeah.
The issue that I see is, which is it has gotten a bit better, but it's still quite bad, is that we are incapable of having a discussion about immigration without people feeling like, unless they support the most extreme position of their side, then the other side is going to pull the rug under their feet. Yeah. And that is a bigger problem for left-wing and liberal parties, because their moral principles that they claim to abide by stipulate more strongly for them that racism is very bad, human rights are very good, humanitarian help is a good thing, we have responsibilities. And this kind of, the historic perspective as well has kind of gotten lost on people, like why we've reached the place we have. But it also has to do with how rights and responsibilities over the decades have stopped being linked. So rights used to be something that was conferred on someone, and it came with responsibilities, the right to a citizenship, the responsibilities of a citizen. And over the years, the more these have been watered down, the more people have realized that paying your taxes and fulfilling your duties as a citizen sometimes is just not enough to get the kind of things that you expected, like social housing, for example. And then they saw other people who were getting these things, and they felt like they were not contributing in the same way. And whether this has been magnified and manipulated by the media is another story, but this has made people turn to populism. Whereas if you had liberal parties and left-wing parties who were willing to deal with some of these thornier issues in a way that is compassionate and open, you would not have a situation where the only person expressing these frustrations and anxieties is populist right-wingers.
It's a breakdown of the social order, and it is a real problem for those coalition building movements for left-wing parties. I think whenever you have a situation where if you're following the rules, you feel like an idiot, because if you didn't follow the rules, you would have something better. Now, whether or not that is true, if it is true in the minds of the voter, if they feel that they are only getting a worse deal for playing by the rules, then you don't have a social safety net. You don't have faith in the government. You don't have faith in institutions that they can do things for you because you believe that it's an impediment. And that's a problem. I do think that there is an element of bite that has been left behind by some parts of more liberal parties that don't understand if you have a more robust social safety net, you got to police it. Like you have to have a firm hand. And sometimes that means you got to be the bad guy and you're going to get yelled at by people that have a activist position on certain areas. But if you don't do it, if you just kind of leave it, if you set it and forget it, then you get into the situation that you are now where it just feels like, oh, okay, so if you work and you pay taxes, like, yes, there will be activist government on my Facebook posts, but there will not be an activist government if somebody is not fulfilling their work requirement and shouldn't legally be in the state. Like that, we're going to leave alone. You're going to send somebody to my house because I wrote a spicy Facebook post.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the US, right? And you have this situation where I don't think it's like the difference between the immigration problems we have in the UK and the ones you have in the US is that Donald Trump at the moment is like going after people who are working and often paying taxes as well, who are not necessarily really getting anything out of the welfare state because the welfare safety net in the US is nothing like what it is in the UK.
Yeah.
And he's basically going after workers who often are needed in small and medium-sized businesses run by Trump voters. And in that way, he's harming his economy. And he's also, terrorizing people. He's making he's radicalizing people because people in Western countries do not like violence on their streets. They do not like especially looking at people wearing government uniforms being violent. That is something a Westerner doesn't appreciate.
Thing. We don't like. Yeah.
In the UK, it is different because we have a very a social welfare system that, if you have the right conditions, can be very generous. For example, if you have loads of kids, it can be very generous. And a lot of the people who have loads of kids can be people who are originally or, second or third generation immigrants from Muslim countries. And the optics of that are a gift to populist right-wingers.
Yeah, in America, I think the line is more drawn on, the border was a big thing because it was big and visual. And this is what I said when the Peretti shooting happened. Biden was irreparably harmed by a big live visual on the southern border, where it was like, all of a sudden you see a bunch of Haitians on the southern border. I'm like, I don't need a map to know that that's weird. Why is that happening? Like you have to go a really long way from Port-au-Prince to get to Eagles Pass, Texas. And similarly to Trump, or in Trump's perspective, you have a big visual where, masked government officials are shooting a citizen. Now, people will have a million different reasons to explain why that happened, but nobody cares beyond the visual. The visual is what matters. That's what tends to kind of drive public opinion, the thoughts we have underneath those and what that means going forward. What I do think is common, though, is that regardless of here's one more difference. The UK, like you pointed out, is a poor country, and there's only so much that a booming economy can cover for things. In America, we've gotten away with a lot of different, questionable to bad policy decisions because we've got a very strong economy. We've got a resilient economy that kind of keeps growing, and whenever it starts to flag, we invent a new hula hoop, and now all of a sudden we have another 10 years of things going forward. And maybe we're at the beginning of that with AI, and we'll see a lot of these kind of opinions fade. But in countries where you are more reliant on the kind of trade winds from places like America and China, and you have a generous social safety net, I do think that stuff kind of comes up a lot quicker and can be a little bit more get the hell out of office. And as we've seen over the past few years.
And it's what people can see, right? Because it's difficult for people on a day-to-day basis to get angry about money laundering, for example, right?
Yes.
And money laundering, it's 3 to 5% of the global GDP. So it's 3 to 5 trillion pounds per year, or dollars per year, that goes into, that is money laundered every year. There are people in the UK who lose £1 billion a year from fraud. So this is usually poor people with small incomes, or usually older people who are getting, fraudsters get to get their money. But it's hard for people to feel more enraged about that than it is to feel enraged about what they can see actively in their day-to-day life, which is, this family who looks foreign to me seems to be getting a house from the council to be in central London and pay 1/4 of my rent when I'm renting from a private landlord. That feels wrong to me. Or this person next to me, they never seem to go to work. They are on benefits. They seem all right to me. They seem like they can work to me. Why are they not working? And I have to wake up every day in the crack of dawn.
Yeah. I mean, it's what have you done for me lately? And do you feel like you are living a good life? Do you feel that somebody else is living a good life? And when you do have a more robust social safety net, it becomes more of, well, wait a minute. Well, I thought you were supposed to help the needy. I feel needy. I feel like I deserve something.
If you look at the incomes of the different social classes over the last decade or so, last couple of decades, the incomes of the top 1% has massively increased.
Yeah.
The incomes of the very low strata of society has slightly increased as well. And the income that has stayed the most stagnant is everybody in the middle.
Yeah.
So we have been alleviating poverty more and more, but inequality is increasing. And that is a recipe for disaster. And that is something that the elites should be very careful about. And the elites should be worried about it, because that is what is going to create the kind of populist anger that will translate in civil chaos and unrest.
Well, on that sunny note, we can transfer a little bit to what else you have cooking on your Substack. One of my favorites, the human carbohydrate. What are you writing about these days, Stella?
So I have started going to, as I said, Reform Party conferences and their events, and I will be following more people going out and campaigning. It's one of my favorite things. As you know, I'm from the left, but I love talking to right-wing people, especially young right-wing people, and I'm very interested specifically in why all of these young students are flocking to these populist radical parties, and what's their experience like going to university and being, like it would be like being a Trump supporter in a university in the US. I want to know what it's like in the UK doing similar stuff.
Well, everybody go ahead and subscribe there. Follow Stella. Thank you so much, as always, for coming back on the show.
Thanks for having me.
And that'll wrap it up for us today. Politics is written and hosted by me, Justin Robert Young, for Dog and Pony Show Audio in Austin, Texas. Our producer is Will Saddleberg. A big thank you to Stella for joining us on the show. A big thank you to everybody who is listening. You can send me an email, theyoungamerican@gmail.com. Find, follow, and you want to know what here? Emails. There's a bit that we used to do. I can't remember if it came to PX3 or we only did it on the jury show. But the angry email voice. I had an angry email voice, and it was just reserved for the kind of all caps emails that people would send in sometimes. Give me all caps emails. What are you the angriest about? I want to do an angry email voice segment next week. theyoungamerican@gmail.com, or do it in the comments on YouTube. Just get it to me. Get it to me. Of course, you can find, follow, and share video clips of the show. TikTok is Justin R. Young. Instagram is Justin R. Young. Twitter is Justin R. Young. YouTube is Politics, Politics, Politics. And you can watch us on your brilliant, beautiful television set with the Substack TV app. Just go ahead and follow us on Substack. You can either do it paid or for free. Sync with a QR code on your television, and then Bob's your uncle. Your boy is in the living room. It's a great time. Support us with a one-time donation. PayPal.me/payjury. Venmo is Justin-Young-20. Cash App is PX3Cash, and you can send me anything you'd like in the mail. Post Office Box 153184, Austin, Texas 78715. You can only get our bonus content at TakePoliticsSeriously.com. Paying members get 2 bonus episodes each and every week. It is a slim $12 a month. Or, I'm telling you, this is the way to go. This is the way to go. Get the annual plan. Right now, not only does it bring you all the way through the midterms, but by the time that you're even thinking about this again, next Valentine's Day, when you got hearts in your eyes, it's going to be because we're talking about presidential announcements. Oh, yeah. Yeah, we're that close. Oh, 2028. But don't look. Don't look yet. Don't spoil your dinner. You need to have the midterms first. Oh, yes. I can't believe we're already at primaries. I'm so pumped. That annual plan is only $99. Over 150 episodes of this show for under $100. Guys, inflation resistant is this program. You'll love to see it. But of course, the only people who get their name read at the end of the show are the foundational tier, including Sonny Black, L3PO, Peepaw, Scott, Middle-Aged Mike, Tom, Nick, Sarah Jeannie, Jeremy, Pro Idiot, Chiller Tomatoes, Neil, Casey, oh yeah, it's Adam, AB Puppy, Dr. Whiskey, Fat Tony's BJ's from New York, Will, the Borge B, Michael, Matt, DP4 Bongo, Andrew, Edwin, Sam, Andrew, Phil, Edison, Paul, Gloria Young, me ma. A dog named Checkers. Jerry, Trucker, John, Berkeley, Steven, and Zombie Doc. You want your name read? One place to do it. Take politics seriously.com. You know, I found out something today. I got my teeth cleaned. This is the most Austin thing about me, is that my dental hygienist is in a band that plays with Robert Rodriguez, the director. And so he worked with Robert Rodriguez on a million different things, including From Dusk Till Dawn. Dusk Till Dawn, one of my favorite movies, for the record. I love From Dusk Till Dawn. I like Sinners, the movie that's probably going to win Best Picture at the Oscars, because it reminds me of From Dusk Till Dawn. That's going to be 30 years old this year. Oh. So they're doing like a big re-release stuff. I love Dusk Till Dawn. Dusk Till Dawn, such a great movie. And it's got the line that I have always used to describe Donald Trump. And that is Harvey Keitel talking to George Clooney's character. Are you so much of an effing loser that you can't tell when you've won? Dude, that obviously that's my Trump. I think I did a whole thing in 2016 where I just described all the candidates in with From Dusk Till Dawn quotes. I can't remember the exact line, but the line with Hillary Clinton was like, welcome to servitude or something. And that's when Selma Hayek's centennial pandemonium turns into like a lizard or a lizard vampire. Oh man, so great. Anyway, I don't know why I trailed off into that, but I hope you guys have a great weekend. We have a great set of shows for you next week as we barrel through. Happy Valentine's Day again. Heart, heart, heart. This is your old pal Justin Robert Young saying some shows talk about politics, others talk about politics, and still more discuss politics, but this is the only show that dares discuss Hole 3.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Dog and Pony Show audio.